38% of our youth now are diabetic or pre-diabetic. That was zero when I was a kid. Anybody thinks that we did gold standard medicine in this country from these institutions, look at our children. They're the sickest children in the world. Laura, you say that excuse me, Congressman DeLauro, you say that you've worked for 20 years on getting food dye out. Give me credit. I got it out in 100 days.
I'll give you that credit.
All right, so let's work together and do something that we all believe in, which is have healthy kids in our country, for God's sake.
About half of my district is on Medicaid. And the recent budget that is being discussed in the House right now would leave 50,000 people in my community without health insurance. So Secretary Kennedy, my question for you is, why do you think that a community like mine doesn't deserve access to that same basic health care provided by Medicaid that you benefited from?
I do believe they have. I do believe, and that is the design of the Medicaid program.
So do you disagree with the cuts that are being proposed for Medicaid right now?
Oh, the cuts to, this is I don't know if you understand this or whether you're just mouthing, the Democratic talking points. The cuts to Medicaid are for fraud, waste, and abuse, and I'll tell you what that means. It means that because of DOGE, we were able to determine, and it's about 8 million people who would be affected. Because of DOGE, we were able to determine that there are 1 million people who are claiming Medicaid from multiple states. That's illegal. It's theft. You're not allowed to do that. There are another 1 million people who are collecting both under Obamacare and Medicaid.
Secretary, that has nothing to do with the budget that's
These are
actually
the only
being
cuts that are
proposed
being
in the
made.
House.
These are the only cuts that are being made to Medicaid.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. There are another 1 million illegal aliens. We announced a law yesterday, a rule yesterday, we're not going to pay illegal aliens anymore. And guess what Gavin Newsom did this morning? He said we're going to take all the illegal aliens off the California Medicaid rolls because the feds aren't paying for them anymore. So the compassion ends. The budget for my agency increased by 38% over the Biden administration. And Americans got sicker, and more Americans overdosed, and more Americans died from cancer. And we have now an epidemic of colorectal cancers in our children. And the chronic disease rate has now gone up to 60%. The autism rate has dropped to 1 in 31 children. And all that money that was supposed to cure those diseases or avert them, none of it worked. All we need is leadership and a new vision, and I'm bringing that to my agency. So we're actually doing more with less, and we are going to continue to do that. And what I'm doing at my agency is I'm realigning all these perverse incentives that have driven up costs and driven down health. I'm realigning so that people can make money in this country and markets can make money.
Look at what's going on, everyone. Sauce we can hear today. You saw from the intro, RFK, he had to do a congressional budget hearing for the year 2026. And instead of asking about the budget, you saw from the intro, people are trying to make political things out of this. And this is why I'm starting to say, like, what's the point of congressional hearings anymore if this is what they're going to do? Like, they try to play politics with this stuff, and it's not working in their favor. And the clips that I showed you, I think, are some of the best ones to really summarize the video. If you don't have time to really watch my whole stuff, I usually give you guys that so you can get a general sense of what the hell's going on. But RFK is really schooling these people. This guy, he's educated these Congress people about this stuff. And the funny part is, you got Bernie Sanders, who still hasn't said anything about Trump's prescription drugs. You got Ro Khanna here trying to codify these prescription drug cuts from Trump's executive orders before the Republicans do. There's a whole lot of chaos going on right now. But Sanders says it's throwing 13 million Americans off of healthcare is what's keeping America healthy. And I hate this point from socialists and these people who think government is a solution to everything. They cuts are to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. And I don't know how many times RFK has to repeat himself. Then they always have to scramble. I don't mean to be rude, but I have very limited time. Like, I don't want to hear your explanations. I just want to make a political point out of this. And this is how these hearings always come across to me. I'm trying to make a political point here. And I want to show you clips, 2 clips actually. One of RFK talking about the placebo effect and why he's so skeptical of vaccines. And the second clip is why he is for banning fluoride. And hearing those 2 clips, as a common sense, as a critically thinking American, don't you think these are things that needs to be investigated? And if these things are causing negative outcomes for our children. Shouldn't we remove these things or shouldn't we limit these things? That's for you to decide in the comment section below. Let's take a look at the clips.
What's the role of the Secretary of HHS as far as recommendations of vaccine, and just discuss it a little bit further?
Well, the vaccine recommendations, Senator, are normally made through ACIP, which is the Advisory Committee of Immunization Practices, which is an outside consulting committee at CDC. There's another committee called VRBPAC, which is within FDA, that actually recommends whether the vaccines get licensed or not. And so that's where the recommendations come from. And you know what? Traditionally, they have not done evidence-based medicine. They only adopted evidence-based medicine about 12 years ago. And what we've said during our administration is we want to have safety studies prior to the licensure and recommendation of vaccines. Vaccines are the only medical product that is exempt from pre-licensing safety testing. So the only vaccine that has been tested in a full-blown placebo trial against an inert placebo was the COVID vaccine. The other 76 shots that children in this country receive between birth and 18 years old, none of them have been safety tested in pre-licensing studies against a placebo, which means we don't understand the risk profile for those products, and that's something that I intend to remedy.
If you are successful in banning fluoride, I noticed you congratulated Utah and Florida, I think, for banning it. That's up to them. They can do what they want. But we better put a lot more money into dental education because we're going to need a whole lot more dentists.
I think that, Marty Makari's concern with ingestible fluoride is that the emerging science shows the benefits to of fluoride to cares and to cavity prevention comes from topical exposures rather than it was once thought that it was systemic, that if you ingested it, that the benefit came from that. We now know that virtually all the benefit is from topical, and we can get that through mouthwashes, we can get through fluoridated toothpastes. The National Toxicity Program issued a report in August, a meta-review of all the science that now exists on fluoride, and showed a direct inverse correlation between fluoride exposure, dose-related, and lower IQ. It's an issue that we have to all be concerned with. We want high IQ kids.
Mr. Hoyer,
right now.
So you got dentist, congressman, can't debate with him. Like, end of the day, these people who keep trying to say trust the science, it just means take what the experts give you without any pushback. The experts been wrong about a lot of things. You had so-called expert economists saying that inflation is going to go up with Trump's tariffs, and then data comes out and proves them wrong. So these experts had a theory and reality showed them that they were wrong. So that means experts don't dictate what reality is. So when they say trust the science, what they're talking about? If someone said, hey, there's some concerns that I have with the way or the methodologies of your science, and I want to try it a different way to validate something, why be so against it? And this is the problem that many Democratic congressmen who are overly paid, a lot of these Democratic congressmen are paid by pharmaceutical companies. And it seemed like they have no problem with the current status quo. The current status quo is 4% of the world's population, which is the United States of America, is responsible for 75% of pharmaceutical companies' profits and revenue. Make it make sense. On average, Americans pay 2.7 times more for drugs than the rest of the world, than 33% of the rest of the world. Make that make sense. And Democrats are sitting here protecting them. I wonder why. RFK brought up examples. Oh, the federal government no longer wants to pay for illegal aliens Medicare, and Gavin Newsom in California just dropped all of them. Oh, so the compassion ends once you lose access to federal money, huh, Democrats? And this is why I'm tired of the Democratic Party. You're sitting here trying to play pretend. You're sitting here trying to think, oh, we're so moral, we're so virtuous, but when you don't get anything out of it, that virtue, that kindness, that generosity, all of a sudden you lost it. If Gavin Newsom was truly cared about the illegal aliens, if Gavin Newsom truly was compassionate and it was out of the goodness of his heart, he'll still support the illegal aliens with state money, with taxpayer money from California. But he chose not to. Why? because he got a political benefit for helping these people. Hey, federal government money is being funneled into California because of these illegal aliens. I can do that. I could be generous with other people's money. And that is the MO of the Democratic Party. They always think more money will solve the problem when you spend as much money as you want. Look, you had like what, 9 women's health offices? And because RFK says, nah, we don't need 9, we just need 1. You crying saying, oh, he's cutting down the healthcare system. But look at the outcomes you've given the American people. Before y'all did all this stuff, 0 kids had any obesity problems. Now, 33% of kids have obesity problems. Make it make sense. The health outcomes doesn't match the money you guys are printing for it. And I'm done with my long-winded rant. I want to get into this clip of Senator Murphy going with RFK and them debating out things concerning vaccines. Let's take a look.
Mr. Secretary, let me give you the full panoply of
accusations without details.
the things you said before this committee that didn't turn out to be true. You also promised Chairman Cassidy that the FDA would not change vaccine standards from, quote, historical norms. But what happened as soon as you were sworn in? You announced new standards for vaccine approvals that you proudly referred to in your own press release as a radical departure from current practice. And experts say that that departure will delay approvals. You also said, specific to the measles vaccine, that you support the measles vaccine, but you have consistently been undermining the measles vaccine. You told the public that the vaccine wanes very quickly. You went on the Dr. Phil show and said that the measles vaccine was never fully tested for safety. You said there's fetal debris in the measles vaccine.
My only concern as an American is anything what RFK is saying is true or not. I don't care if he went back on his word. What if he believed that going into it, then he came with more data, he saw what was going on, and he said, oh, his opinion changed. That's my thing. This is the thing I'm tired of from these congressional hearings, from these politicians, is that they make it about narratives instead of about results. What's the results? What's the outcomes? How is this negatively affecting the American people? How does this affect the bottom line of the country? Right? They don't go into, it's just about narratives. It's about perception. They're trying to color your perception. Oh, this is a bad thing. Oh, experts said this. Experts have been saying a lot of ish, and experts have been wrong a lot of times. Do you want us to go back to the last 4 years? Inflation was transitory. The so-called experts said that too. We're not in a recession. The experts said that too, even though the historical definition of recession was back-to-back negative GDP growth. Biden's economy in 2022 fit that distinction, but it wasn't labeled a recession because the experts said so. This is the reality of trust the science. It means trust the experts, not trust the science. Because when science says something differently from the experts, Democrats and many people who want to push a narrative want you to trust the expert and not the data. And that's essentially what RFK is doing. RFK is showing you, here, here's these facts. Do you have anything that can counter this? And a lot of times it's no, because all the experts got used to saying, trust the science. And trust the science is code for trust the expert, trust the authority. The fallacy of authority. That's all their arguments, all their little narrative games. That's all it relies upon. That fallacy of authority. I digress. Let's continue.
And this morning,
All true. All true.
This morning, in
Do you
front
want me to lie to the public?
That's not. None of that is.
Of course it's true. Of course it's true, Senator. Senator, begging your progress. You do not know what you're talking about.
For the record.
Let's have a little bit of order so that you can get
Madam
your
Chair,
question
I'm
and we
speaking.
can get
I didn't
this
ask.
over.
I didn't ask for a response yet.
I
I'd
understand
like to
that.
lay out the predicate of my question before I'm interrupted by the witness. He should
Go
have some
ahead.
respect for this committee.
Go ahead.
Just this morning, in front of the House of Representatives, you also.
Senator, begging your progress. You do not know what you're talking about.
For the record.
Let's have a little bit of order so that you can get
Madam
your
Chair,
question
I'm
and we
speaking.
can get
I didn't
this
ask.
over.
I didn't ask for a response yet.
I
I'd
understand
like to
that.
lay out the predicate of my question before I'm interrupted by the witness. He should
Go
have some
ahead.
respect for this committee.
Go ahead.
Just this morning, in front of the House of Representatives, you also said that you, in fact, would not recommend that kids get vaccinated for measles. You said you would just lay out the pros and cons. Okay, so this is the summation of everything that you have said to compromise people's faith in the measles vaccine in particular is contrary to what you said before this committee. You said
So, too long to read. All he's saying is that he's mad that RFK wouldn't recommend the vaccines. That's it. RFK is saying, I can't in good faith recommend something that I believe has not been fully tested or gone through a rigorous, a certain approach of testing that I believe is a better and more accurate and more substantial process to understanding the side effects, the pros and cons of these vaccines. That's essentially what RFK is saying. Every normal person can understand where RFK is coming from. Hey, he's been handing this. Here's a vaccine schedule, 76 vaccines. And he believes certain, like a lot of them, have not been properly tested in the same ways that Europeans have done. And if you look at the other countries, he's using other countries as an example, they're doing stuff differently from us. We need to understand and have the proper context, understanding why these Europeans are doing something differently than we are. And that discrepancy is something we have to get to the bottom line of. And that's all the RFK said he wants to do. But all of a sudden, this Murphy guy, he's so mad, maybe because his lobbyist, his pharmaceutical lobbyist told him, you better go after RFK. You better make him recommend RF vaccines. Maybe that's why he's doing it. I don't know. But end of the day, there's a conflict. There's a possible conflict of interest here from Murphy here. I'm just saying. I'm just asking the question, right?
Support the measles vaccine. But then you have laid out a set of facts that are contested, and I will submit information for the record from experts who contest what you've said about the vaccine. And the result is to undermine faith in the vaccine. It's kind of like saying, listen, I think you should swim in that lake, but the lake is probably toxic and there's probably a ton of snakes and alligators in that lake, but I think you should swim in it. Nobody's gonna swim in that lake if that's what you say. And so I want you to acknowledge that when you say you support the measles vaccine, and then go out and repeatedly undermine the vaccine with information that is contested by public health experts, that is not supporting the vaccine.
I'm tired of this. Oh, it's contested by health. Okay, and how you resolve the contention? Have clear and more viable evidence than the other side. But the problem is, what he's not like really saying is they don't have a clear winner here. So if it's contested science, wouldn't it mean that RFK's approach is more, objective? Hey, these are contested things. This side says is good, this side says is bad. None of them have a clear. There's no clear winner here. There's no clear consensus here. Let's not make a recommendation because it's still up in the air. But for this guy, it's the same thing with the fake fact checks. Because you don't have evidence to support your claim, and they don't have evidence to disprove your claim, all of a sudden your statement's false. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. It just means both of them are claims. But he feels so strongly that the vaccines are all right. Okay.
And so I guess I have two simple questions for you. One is, can you clarify what you said in the House this morning? Are you or are you not recommending that families get their children vaccinated? Or are you just giving people the pros and cons? And do you understand that when you say these things about the measles vaccine, what ends up happening is less people get the vaccine? That may be what you want, but do you understand that the result of constantly questioning the efficacy or safety of the vaccine results in less people getting the vaccine? So I don't necessarily want to spend the remaining 20 seconds in an argument over the science, but do you at least understand that that's the consequence of what you're—
What a weasel. You waste all the time with this bloviating, that's the new word I learned today, about how right you are, how bad RFK is, and you only give him 20 seconds to rebuttal. Make it make sense, guys.
saying, and are you actually still recommending people get the vaccine, or are you not?
Senator, if I advised you to swim in a lake that I knew there to be alligators in, wouldn't you want me to tell you there were alligators in it?
So are you recommending the measles vaccine or not?
What I've said and what I said,
It doesn't sound like you are. If that's—
are you going to let me answer? Or are you going to keep interrupting?
Are you or are you not?
Are you going to let me answer? What I pledged before this committee during my confirmation is that I would tell the truth, that I would have radical transparency. I'm going to tell the truth about everything we know and we don't know about vaccines.
Are you recommending the measles vaccine or not?
I am not going to just tell people everything is safe and effective if I know that there's issues. I need to respect people's intelligence.
You're answering the question. I think you're
And
answering
the reason
That's
that
really
people—
dangerous for the American public and for families.
We're gonna.
That's for the American. Respectfully, that's for the American people to decide that, not you. I'm being dead serious. It's not up to you to decide that. The American people get to decide if that's truly dangerous or not. It's probably dangerous for your pocket, maybe. I don't know. But we want to make sure that, these are our children. These are our kids. The parents don't play that. Look, I don't know, Murphy have kids of his own, but as a parent, I don't play that. If there's issues with something, I want to get all the details of the issue known and rectified before I even want to inject my kid with that stuff. I think every parent can understand that sentiment. And I don't think it's going to play well as well as Murphy might think it does.
People have lost faith in this program is because they've been lied to by public officials for
Secretary of
year
Health and
after
Human
year
Services
after
no
year. and
longer
for
recommending the measles vaccine.
Senator Marshall.
That's all he came for. Soundbite. I got my soundbite. Yes. Put it on record. This is what, look, bro. If Democrats were smart, RFK would have been their front runner, not Kamala Harris.
Secretary, let me
And I don't know, man. Like I said, these congressional hearings, bro, they're supposed to be like, you're supposed to get information. You're supposed to understand what's going on. Y'all supposed to be able to collaborate and find ways where y'all can agree to and get stuff done. But instead, y'all use it as a battleground for politics. You play silly games like you got 20 minutes and you waste an hour and 40 minutes, a minute and 40 minutes filibustering and give the guy only 20 seconds to respond. And then you want a yes or no question when there's a lot more context. Oh, I don't want to sit here and debate the science and all this stuff. Okay, but because there's arguments for and against the vaccines. And what RFK is trying to do is find the clear consensus, the clear winner, the one with the strongest and most substantial evidence. He's trying to get to the root cause of all these health issues that we're facing as a country. And you keep wanting to defend status quo when we see the results of status quo. Almost half of adults are obese. Obesity in children is at an all-time high. Make it make sense. You got senators that's been there for 20 years, in Congress for 20 years, and RFK in 100 days got food dye ban when they were trying to do 20 years. Like, make it make sense. It took RFK 100 days to do what it's taking 20 years for people to pretend to do. And this is the problem that many Americans have with our political system. And I talked about this with Republicans, and this is going to be a shot at Republicans. Them slow walking, Americans need to get off the sidelines. No, your butts need to get off the sidelines and actually start codifying some laws. I think by this point, Biden passed 5 laws already, I think, if I remember correctly. Trump still hasn't got his bills passed yet. I think the Lincoln-Riley Act was the only thing, but it was already on the Senate. You have not passed anything new. Y'all let Ro Khanna beat you into codifying some of Trump's executive orders. That can't happen. And if the Republicans want to win for the next 10 years, if they want to push the Democrats into irrelevancy, they have to be the party that gets stuff done. They have to they got to move away from their old bad habits of sitting around and twiddling their thumbs. But, I digress. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.